Welcome to Elite Broker, the podcast showcasing the leading players and stories of success from Australia's broking industry.
Hello and welcome back to Elite Broker. It's Annie Kane here, joining you for another episode of Elite Broker, talking to some of the big players in the Australian mortgage and finance broking space. This week, we're talking to a broker that you may already know if you've been around for a while. Matt Pongrass, the finance broker and director at Cert Finance here in Sydney, has been operating his business for a long time, but really, I think, kind of under the radar. So we picked his brain, knocked on his door and said, come on, Matt, come and tell your story on Elite Broker so we could share it with other brokers, because you're doing some amazing things. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
For letting me bully you into coming onto Elite Broker.
Thanks.
No, I said you've been under the radar because I feel like I have seen your name before, but you're not kind of one of those brokers that goes in for a lot of like marketing. I don't really see you massively on social media, but I hear you talked about by other brokers. So I was like, it's high time we bring you into the studio and tell your story, Matt. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Firstly, for anyone who's not met you before here in Sydney, how long have you been broking for and why did you become a broker in the first place?
I have been broking for 8 years. Prior to that, worked in a bank for 8 years as well. So I guess let's go back. Origin story. Started in accounting very early throughout university. Moved into wealth at Macquarie Bank. So I got a job when I was 23 years old there. So I did a couple of years in wealth. And then moved over into business bank. And I worked there for 6 years. So a lot of corporate transactions. I started as an analyst. I moved into a credit role and then did a few years in sales. And I always wanted to have my own business. I think that was, I have a family of entrepreneurs and that was always a goal of mine. But my dad said to me when I was very young, he said, go work for a bank, learn how to work in a big business, learn how to be managed, learn how to manage people. That'll set you up really well. So I had a goal when I turned 30 that I wanted to be self-employed. So I literally turned 30. I was still working at the bank and I reflected and said, well, you made a promise to yourself, and I quit 2 days later.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well,
it's a little bit daunting at the time.
I don't know if it's good. I don't know if I'm not saying congratulations you quit. I'm saying congratulations you followed your dreams.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I'd worked in lending for a good period of time. And I'd, obviously thought about becoming a broker at the time. I mean, look, this is 2016. So left, moved back home, which was interesting, being a 30-year-old, moving back home. And at the time, so Cert Finance was actually an offshoot of a client of mine who had a wealth business. So we tucked in originally and added a finance offering to that. So I had really good grounding in terms of I had a base where I had an office, I had other people in the office, I had a good lead network, and that was sort of the foundation for us.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. There's a lot there I'm going to unpack. Firstly, I want to know, what does your family of entrepreneurs do?
It's a mix. So my grandfather migrated from Hungary during the war, and he...
Magyarul.
Yes. He had a business, an engineering business. He had a boat business. I think at his point, he had 600 employees.
Wow.
Had a big listed company in Australia. My dad had a printing business and property. My uncle is in tech, started Sumo Salad. You might have heard of Sumo Salad.
Yum. Great salad.
Started Baby Village. So yeah, the whole family is all self-employed, and I think that's sort of ingrained in me in a young age that that's something I wanted to do.
Yeah, these are big businesses as well.
Big businesses. Yeah.
Well, you've got no pressure, Matt.
I love lots of pressure.
So you decided you wanted to be your own business, your own man, establish and build something for yourself, and then you joined up with an existing company. Why did you decide to do that? Was it ever a consideration for you to start up your own brokerage or like a franchise?
The agreement we had at the time, so I was 100% independent. It was its own standalone business. At the time, that business partner had a small share in the business, and it was a way to service their clients as well. And that sort of evolved over time where I bought back my share and it was 100% mine after a couple of years.
Yeah.
We still shared the same name and we still, share an office together.
Yeah. And was that because of an existing friendship?
It was a relationship I formed at Macquarie. So he was a client of mine at Macquarie Bank. And I think I was very strategic when I did leave. I used to work in the professional services arm of the business. So I used to look after accountants and financial advisors. And I cherry-picked some of my best advisors I work with. And I asked them, and I think this is probably leads into some good advice to people, but I asked them all if they can be a mentor to me. And I'd like to stay in touch with them. And he was one of them. And he said, well, actually, why don't you, if you're going to go out on your own, why don't you come in and tuck in under our business? And that's sort of how the conversation started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's really nice that you actually ask people, for guidance. How many people, like I'm always sort of curious when people sort of say this, because a lot of new brokers, I think particularly, are a bit nervous about asking other people to be a mentor and being like, I don't want to be in a position and, I don't want to kind of put a strain on it. But are people generally up for it? With people who you ask up for it?
Absolutely. I mean, I could ask you the same thing. It's flattering. If someone asks you to give them advice or mentor them, if you're hearing that, it's very flattering.
Yeah.
And people want to help.
Yeah.
Naturally. So I think people need to be more open to asking people for advice or thoughts or feedback, because people genuinely want to help.
Yeah. Especially in this industry. It's very nice.
Yes. I mean, I think there's enough business to go around for everyone. So collaboration is much more important than, competing against one another.
Yeah. And when you then, one of the big decisions, I suppose, when you first start out in broking is which group are you going to go with, who you're going to aggregate through. Yes. Did you go on little dates with all of the aggregate BDMs? How did you choose yours?
I did and I didn't. I had a few friends that had left prior and were all with Connective. And so I met with Mark and Fiona and we got on really well. And there was just a natural decision to go with them. They had a lot of good brokers in there that I knew as well. So I've started with Connective and I'm still with Connective.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Now, you're part of the 2016 crew of Connective. There seemed to be a lot of brokers that started around that time. Yes. Lots that we actually had on this podcast as well.
Yes.
How did you kind of, I guess, form your tribe when you first started? Who did you rely on? Who did you connect with?
So we leveraged a little bit off our broker support manager at Connective, and I asked him to put together a list of brokers that are young, that have small businesses, that are new to the industry, that all work in. So we're all CBD based at the time. And we put together a group of, there might have been 6 or 8 of us, and we used to catch up once monthly. And the idea was we'd share ideas. We had a big email thread. We'd share scenarios with each other. We'd invite lender BDMs to come and talk to us in a more intimate setting to get, more detailed understanding of policies and, things that banks are doing well. And so that was a really good way of, sharing ideas between other brokers. And, you mentioned they're all very good brokers in their own right now and have grown really good businesses. So I think that's super important to actually form relationships with other brokers and share ideas with them.
Yeah, and I think not only for the fact that you can, it probably also is a bit easier for people to come and talk to you if there's a group of you rather than having to talk to every broker individually for a BDM perspective. But also, sharing ideas and also having some camaraderie for things that aren't necessarily broking.
Well, the thing with broking as well, it's a lonely game. There is more. It's a very fragmented industry. There's a lot of one-man band businesses, and that's even more so now. And so if you don't have that network of people you can communicate with and share ideas and share your frustrations with, it's really lonely and really tough to actually grow a business. You need to have people around you. And whilst you're still then running a business with maybe only one person, it doesn't feel that way because you've got other people in the same boat.
Yeah, and you can even just moan about stuff together if you want to have a sort of, just knitting circle of complaints. It's funny because we did our new broker academy in June. We went to Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne with it, and in partnership with Bendigo Bank Broker. And I think one of the common themes that we were hearing from people in the room was being like, I just don't know where to start. And I also don't know where to turn when I've got, problems. And so much of what we were trying to encourage people to do was really even at the event being like, whoever's sat on your table now, swap numbers, go and have a coffee, catch up and maybe be on the journey together because you need someone to talk to if you're on your own. So I love that you did that. And can I ask who was in that group?
There was Chris Bates. There was Jordan Bay, who you would know as well. There was Aaron Christie David, who you would know, Andrew Johnson, who owns Legal Home Loans, Sam Mullins from Foster Finance, myself. You're missing some people, but that's a good list.
I think, I mean, that's we've probably done a Elite Broker podcast with not necessarily all those people, but definitely those brokerages. So I think Foster Finance, we did it with
Will
Will Foster.
Yep.
Thank you. And legal home loans, we've done one with Cullen.
Yep.
We've done one with Chris Bates recently, actually this year. We did one with Aaron this year as well. He also spoke on our New Broker Academy.
Yep.
So yeah, lots of, and Christian Stevens and Redom from Flint as well. Yeah, we did a podcast with them later this year too. So lots of big hitters there, major brokerages, and of course you're one of them. But as we said, haven't yet done a podcast, so pumped to be doing this.
I like to fly under the radar. That's kind of my marketing strategy, I guess, is to not be front of mind. But it's actually a strategic decision around that. So,
why?
I think, and again, there's lots of different approaches in terms of how people want to present to market. I think social media and podcasts and video are fantastic, and I think people are doing an amazing job, yourself included.
Thank you.
But it's a very crowded space. The type of clients that I go after, I wouldn't attract through that channel. It's very relationship driven. It's very high touch. And so ours is all about relationships and word of mouth. I've never done any marketing, never done podcasts, never done branding, never done videos, but I'm very strategic around that because the clients I deal with like discretion.
Yeah.
And they value that. And being able to be front of mind for them in terms of building good relationships and having high touch with them is a better marketing tool for me than,
than shouting about it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I'm breaking that.
No,
trend.
that's all right.
But it gives me a nice sort of segue, I think, into, well, who are your target clients? Who are you servicing? What kind of loans are you writing?
Yes, it's a good question. I think I was very strategic and very specific when I started. And this is some advice to people as well. When you start, I think it's very important you map out exactly the type of client you want to go after. So if you decide you want to become a broker, I spent a lot of time sitting down before I'd ever written a loan. I actually got a branding and strategic person in to put a roadmap for me together, and we mapped out different types of clientele. And I was very specific around two types of client bases I want to go after. It was young professionals at the time, and it was family offices and sophisticated investors. And I was really specific that that's only who I wanted to target. And they were who I started targeting early, and it just evolved from there, and it snowballed from there that they ended up being the only types of clients I was getting because the referrals I was getting were from that client base.
Yeah. I think that's a common sort of tip that a lot of business coaches, would say is like creating avatars. So being like, where do they shop? Where are they going to school? Where are they hanging out? What are they earning? What are they wearing?
Yeah, I think they even came up with names of the types of client bases.
Yeah.
But yes, that's right. Creating avatars of the types of clients you want.
Nowadays as well, you can get ChatGPT probably to do it, or AI to do it, to actual images of them on the wall.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, but I think that's a great one to do. So, I mean, you talked about, though, not doing any marketing. So you had to get your leads from somewhere. How did you find these people? Were they existing clients? Were they friends of friends? I
think the low-hanging fruit's always easy when you first start in terms of like friends and family. I think friends is actually probably harder than people think because you need to, there's an element of building trust and Chinese walls between your friends because, a lot of people don't want other people to know their financial circumstances. So friends is probably harder actually than people think. But it was, I have no problem in reaching out to other businesses that I think are aligned with me values-wise and their service offering, and I catch up for coffees with new businesses all the time. So it really just started with me reaching out to a bunch of businesses that I had earmarked in terms of who I wanted to form a relationship with, and it was all very warm referrals.
Did you do anything like out of the ordinary? So you said there about kind of, going out for coffees and stuff, but did you do anything out of the ordinary, like, I don't know, for investment clients, for example, like going to, property investment conferences or anything like that? Did you do anything sort of go and travel to where they were?
Not really.
They just came to you.
I think
Brilliant.
I was a little lucky because at Macquarie I looked after financial advice firms, so I had 30 or 40 firms I already knew, and I already had relationships with those directors. So that was very it was easier for me at the start because I had a good group of advisors who I still work with today, a lot of them that I'd already built trust and had a level of rapport with. So they initially were great referrers.
Yep.
But some of my biggest referrers now, I didn't even know back then. One of my biggest referrers is based in Queensland. and we only met once.
Yeah, how did you connect with him?
It was very early on. I had an asset finance deal, and we refer out our asset finance. And again, the reason for that is I don't ever pretend to be an expert in asset finance. I'm not. I'm good at business, commercial, and property finance. Asset finance, I'm not. So we partner with people in that space. And we had a really unique transaction with, I think the security was barrels of wine.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a very unique one. And I partnered with a guy in Queensland who is amazing in the space, and he ended up facilitating that loan on our behalf. And we just formed a really good working relationship where he would send his residential and commercial clients. I would send our asset finance. We still have that relationship today.
Can I ask who that is?
It's Rent Max is the name of the business.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure other people are being like, oh, I didn't even know you could secure a barrel of wine. Yes, I didn't know that. Yeah. I love that.
Chris Frawley from Rent Max.
Chris Frawley.
He'll like the plug.
Yeah. But I think, that's always interesting to me with asset finance and equipment finance, like the amounts of things that the weird and wonderful things that you can finance. Who knows? Who knows?
That's right.
We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll be talking about your process and operations, how you actually do what you do, and what you've got planned for the future. And we'll get into it just after this message. So, Matt, you were talking about, kind of actually having this specific client base, but how do you actually then convert a lead into a settlement? And I wonder if you could walk me through your process starting from initial client initiation. So let's say I call you up. Is that typically how you're contacted?
It's a call or an email introduction. Yeah.
So let's say I call you up. I'm like, hey, Matt, I heard you were brilliant. I heard you on the Elite Broker podcast. You sounded fantastic. I would love to take out my 17th loan from my property investment portfolio. What is the process next?
Cool. So I usually will be me that does the initial call or meeting. From that, when we request the documents we need, our team structured, and it's probably important to take a step back and talk about our team structure. So we have me that sort of sits at the top, and I'm lead gen and sort of the head broker. Underneath that, I've got 3 relationship managers, we call them. So one of them's ex-Macquarie. He was a business banker. Another one's been in finance and accounting for 10 years. And the other one's worked with me for 7 years. She's 25 years old. So she
was a baby.
Yeah, she started when she was at university. So we've got 3 relationship managers, and depending on complexity of the deal, one of them will be assigned as a second point of contact for that transaction. And then underneath that, we've got a credit manager, 2 loan processors, and a person that manages settlements. And then we have someone that does just pricings and valuations.
That's quite a big team.
Yeah.
So you are the initial point of contact, and you kind of, I suppose, do the KYC stuff, but then also the recommendations, and then you've got the rest of the team doing the bits in between.
So a deal will come in, I'll have the initial conversation with the client. When we request information, that's a good opportunity for me to introduce the relationship manager that will run side saddle on the deal with me. Once we get everything back, myself, the relationship manager, and the credit analyst will sit down and run through high level what we want to achieve and the strategy we want to do. The credit manager will go off and do a little bit more granular research around, rates and valuations and just some of the finer detail. We then book in a time, the 3 of us, to sit down, and we will map out that strategy. I'm very involved in the strategy still. So, a lot of businesses, they evolve. The call lead broker sometimes steps away more from the granular strategy side, and they focus just on bringing new business. I don't. I've tried it. I just love being involved in the actual deal. So I'm still heavily involved in terms of coming up with the approach for the client. Once we land on that gets delivered to the client through a proposal. Again, we try and elevate the experience. It's a very detailed, thorough proposal. It's way more than we're expected to do. It's kind of like a financial advice document. It's very thorough. And then once we decide on the lender, that's when it goes to our processing team to get together,
So that proposal that you give them, is that a template now? Have you got that kind of everyone is the same, but you just update the information?
It's not. It's different client to client. Sometimes from the initial conversation with the client, I'll know which bank it's going with straight away. And we might not do that approach. It might just be, hey, this is where it's going, because I already know.
I imagine you know Macquarie policy pretty well as well.
Macquarie pretty well. I know Macquarie very well.
Yeah.
I definitely have a lot with Macquarie. But yeah, often I do know from that first conversation which bank it's going with. But it's sometimes it's email, sometimes it's call, but most times it is a proper digital proposal document we put together.
Yeah. And I think this is also really interesting what you were saying about, how you kind of evolve as a broker, because there are different routes that you can take. As you said, some people just want to do the lead gen stuff. Yeah. Some people really enjoy the problem solving, your strategy. And I think that particularly for people who've come from finance, that seems to be their love like kind of pattern, is being like, I like to solve the problem and find the weird and wonderful, solutions where people didn't think there might have been one. And then you also have brokers who are kind of like, I want to do a bit of everything, but I need a big team with me. And then you've got the sole traders who are like, I want to do absolutely everything because I hate everyone, don't trust anyone. Or something to that effect. But yeah, you've got quite a large team there. Are they all full-time employees?
Yeah, all full-time.
Yeah. And then I guess the next question is, well, how long was it before you decided you needed to bring in additional support? Because I think, for new brokers, this is one of the big questions they ask themselves, is being like, do I bring in help straight away? Do I wait until I've got enough to be able to pay someone? Or do I just take a punt? Like, how did you do it?
It's a good question, and it's tough. I think if you asked a lot of other brokers, like Radam used to say it all the time to me, that he couldn't believe how long I went without having another staff member. He said, you must be running the most high margin business in the world. Because I think the first 4 years it was just me.
Wow.
And then Michaela started with me, and she's been with me for quite a while now. And it was just me and her. And I think I was able to manage that because, again, I was really specific about the type of clients I wanted. So it wasn't about the volume of business. It was just around the quality of clients, and we were doing higher dollar amount transactions. So we didn't need to do 500 deals a year, 50 deals. We were still writing really good numbers. So we were able to manage that. But it just got to a point when my book was out of size where I couldn't manage new clients plus service existing clients, where we needed to say, okay, let's take a step back, revisit things, and look about what the structure actually needs to look like.
Can you give me an idea of how many clients you reckon that was, just for anyone who's thinking, what is the kind of max point?
I think the number is like, to put a number, 150. And I think that number is probably true, like in most industries. Like if you talk about real estate industries, property managers can only manage between 120 and 150 clients. Financial advisors, same thing, 100 to 150 clients. I think that's the point where it's like, that is an absolute maximum you could manage long term. And then, but that sort of, you can fill that bucket up pretty quickly if you're bringing on your business.
So, and you also mentioned about having, a kind of higher transaction size. And of course, being in Sydney, that's always going to be the case. Yes. But particularly if you're looking at sort of more sophisticated investors or high net worth individuals, always going to be higher. Can you give me an idea of what your average sort of loan size is?
It's pretty decent. It's a couple, I think last year was like 2.2 mil was the average loan, which is
2.2 was the average.
Yeah.
I mean, happy days.
Yes. Yeah. So look, I'm very fortunate. I'm not complaining, and I don't want that to sound like I'm big noting myself, but that it just is what it is. Again, that really does come back to when I started. I was really specific around types of clients I want, and it's just sort of evolved and snowballed from there. But that only works because it's a really high touch model, and I'm deeply involved. Like if any of my clients call me now, I could tell you their security, I would know their loans, I know which bank it's with, I know what they're paying, I know their structure, and I know that for basically all my clients because I'm involved in their transaction. I think that leads to then those I guess being able to do those transactions and service them at a high level.
I think many people listening to this would be like, imagine if my average loan was 2.2 million, particularly people who maybe live out in the regions whose average loan size is pretty small.
Yeah, that's definitely not the case. It's being in Sydney certainly helps.
Yeah, for sure. And when you look at then, I guess, kind of actually servicing all those clients. So you talked about the team that you've got there. Mm-hmm. One person just kind of doing pricing, and then you've got 3 relationship managers. That seems like, I think for some people, quite a lot of support staff for one broker. How did you kind of decide that you needed that structure?
Yeah, so it's a really unique structure, my business, compared to other brokerages. So a lot of brokerages will have, brokers within their business, and those brokers sort of run their own business within a business. So they're independent contractors.
Yeah.
We all align ourselves to one profit center or one business. So those relationship managers, while they're all employed, PAYG, their bonus and commissions are aligned to the performance of the business. So when we do transactions, they actually get a percentage of that as well, and that's part of their remuneration structure. So we're all aligned to one sort of clear goal around like servicing existing clients and delivering on outcome. So I think that is quite unique in that sense, but it was a jump for me going from no staff to then having quite a, big wages bill, because
Yeah.
You sacrifice profit in the short term for, long-term growth. And but I think that is just the evolution of business.
Is that sort of like when you thought about that then, did you sit down and go, this is where I want to go and therefore this is how many people I need? Or did you kind of hire organically as you needed support? I just wonder how you kind of expand and know when the time is right.
I think it was hiring organically as I felt I needed them. But I definitely had an idea around what the type of staff I want to hire and how to retain them. And I think, obviously when you talk about retaining staff and having good staff, work-life culture is important, but also let's not lie. People care about the financial side as well. I think that sometimes doesn't get talked about, but let's be honest. People want to look after their families and want to earn money. And so I think I was like, how do I hire good people, but then how do I keep them?
Yeah.
And part of that was let's all be part of the same profit center and all have the same goal, and then we'll all be on the same page at all times.
Yeah. And then, the other big question is looking at how do you go from sole trader to manager, really, because you've got to not only pay bills but also look after people. So obviously, remuneration's part of it, but culture also a key part of it. How do you kind of figure out what it is to be a good manager? Have you kind of got have you got any support or advice for anyone who might be hiring for the first time?
It's really hard. It's I wish I had some illuminating advice around being a good manager. I like to think I am. I think just taking the time to get to know your staff. And it's a really fine balance between having a good relationship with them and being friends with them, but also being able to switch and be their boss and, make sure that everyone's aligned on the same thing. It's a really fine line between sitting in the middle. And I think you have to find that balance between being a friend, but also being a boss.
Yeah. And I'm also curious because I've asked you about the average sort of loan size, but I wonder what kind of number of loans you reckon you're writing a year.
This year we did more than usual. We did about 130 or 140 loans this year, but it's always usually been just under 100. So it's 80 to 100.
Okay, yeah. So you're not kind of swallowing all of the business and, overwhelmed. No. That's an achievable amount.
It's an achievable amount. And I think this sort of leads back to the marketing philosophy or our sort of philosophy around attracting and getting new clients. And again, there's nothing wrong. I think it's fantastic that people are out and doing, videos and different socials and posting on LinkedIn. But I always think if I get one referral from a client once every 2 years, it's completely achievable.
Yeah.
Then that is enough to fill my bucket for the whole year in terms of deals.
Yeah.
And so if I service my existing clients really well and I get one deal every 2 years, I don't need to find any more business than that.
Yeah, it's almost like private banking, private broking.
In a way, but that's, people, as I said, people want to help. So if you service people really well, their colleagues always ask them, oh, who do you have doing this? And then they refer. That's how it works. So I think the lost art of just doing a good job for someone is a really key and really easy way that people can grow their businesses.
Yeah. Do you ask for referrals or just
all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when in the process do you ask?
At the end, usually.
When they're happy.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, and we deliver. It's usually look, if you've got any friends or family or colleagues, we'd love an introduction.
Yeah.
But it goes both ways too. I always refer clients or connect clients to other people, and so I think that has to be reciprocal. The term I use is center of influence. We have it sitting on a board in our office, and I say to all my staff, I'm like, be the center of influence for all clients. And what I mean by that is broking is transactional in nature. By its trade, you're facilitating a transaction, but if you are just acting on a transactional basis, you won't develop deep relationships with clients. So I like to be a conduit for all their financial world. So working with their financial advisor, connecting to a good accountant if they don't have one, introducing to a great buyer's agent that we might know, or a real estate agent, or a property manager, or an insurance broker, or a life insurance advisor, and building a network over time of trusted advisors that we can connect clients and referral partners with. We'll connect buyer's agents often with good accountants, so that helps grow their business. I think slowly building that network out, your client, you're not just their mortgage broker then, you're like a centerpiece to their financial world.
Yeah. Love that. And I think that's, again, I mean, I've said it before on the podcast, but that's why we're called the advisor.
Yes.
It's not financial advice, but it's credit advice. And we think that's what brokers are. They're actually giving you credit advice.
That's right.
Yeah, you're doing the strategy.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break here, Matt. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you about what's next for Cert Finance, the big challenges and opportunities you see in the broking sector, and your advice for new brokers. And we'll get into that just after this message. So looking then to the future, we just started FY 2026, if you can believe it. And I think this is always like a great time for reflection, thinking about what's happening next. What are your plans for FY 26? What are you going to try and achieve this year?
We have some interesting plans on the horizon. So my goal over the next couple of years is slowly evolving our business, or I should say corporatizing our business more. There's a lot of key man risk for all brokerages around the lead broker. So for me, it's the plan over the next couple of years is thinking about ways I can bring in other people to the business to reduce that key man risk and help corporatize the business to be more of a business rather than a one-man band still. Because, whilst our business does have infrastructure in place, it still is a lot of people come just because of me.
Yeah.
So I'm talking with someone at the moment, and it will be happening in the next couple of months. He'll be stepping into my business, and we'll be going through a full rebrand.
Exciting.
Doing some marketing, believe it or not.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. And then I have another banker who I won't say who or where from at the moment, who we're going to set up a standalone debt advisory business that does more of the corporate big private equity transactions.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's exciting. Yes, that's quite a lot coming up.
A lot coming up, yeah.
So, I mean, this is a great question, though, and I think we've seen this a lot in the industry, particularly the last few years, is consolidation or mergers. So lots of brokerages, particularly big brokerages, I think, merging with other brokerages, lots of people retiring, so loads of trail books and businesses up for sale at the moment as well. The first generation of OG brokers kind of retiring now. So we're seeing this huge transfer of wealth in society generally, but also I think in broking as people retire, we're seeing a lot of consolidation and just think about the last year, I can probably name 4 brokerages that are quite big that have merged together. So it is really interesting and a lot of people are looking at it. What did you consider when you were looking at kind of bringing someone in? Because this is quite a big change.
It's tough. Aligning values is a really important one. I think that was the biggest challenge, was finding someone that aligned from a values perspective. I think also finding someone that complements me but doesn't compete with me was also another thing too. Like, I have my channel where I get business from. So for me, finding someone that complements with me from a values perspective but has a different market that I might not necessarily capture, I think that's a really interesting way of growing the business, because it's a whole different segment that I might not be speaking with. So it was... it's challenging to find that person. Yeah. And there was a lot of conversations before I did.
It's really interesting, I think, like looking at that cultural fit and having those kind of important things, making sure you're aligned, because at the end of the day, they're your clients that you've built over 8 years. You don't want to threaten that. So bringing someone in can be quite nerve-wracking. Bringing 2 people in and changing the structure of the business, though, as well. How did you plan this? Did you hire a coach? Did you just kind of sit down and bash it out over a weekend? What was the kind of process for actually looking at where you were going to take a business?
We actually have been dating before we married. That's the way I like to put it. He has been working in my office for nearly a year now, actually.
Oh, right.
So we've been sharing an office, still running 2 separate brands, but just getting to know each other's style. We share some support staff at the moment just to slowly integrate some of our processes. And so I think that was unique, but also really important in terms of actually seeing how we both operate and seeing if there's something there before actually jumping in. I think some of the challenges and the risks of jumping in straight away without doing that is that you might not know exactly whether those values align, and that can potentially lead to an outcome not so favorable.
Yeah, you don't want to get divorced.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah. No one wants to get divorced. We were lucky in that sense that we've spent a lot of time working together before we're looking to the next steps.
Yeah, and you talked about rebranding as well, which again, another big decision to make. Why change the name?
It's a great question, and I just felt that it was time as part of the evolution to move to a new name. The Cert name was original from the first business I work with, so there is a bit of legacy there that's not mine.
Yeah.
Whilst I love the brand and I love what it represents, it's not mine. So I think this is the next stage around having something that is actually mine, resonates with me and my clients. So,
I look forward to
yes,
seeing what
yes,
that is.
yes.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I imagine if you're trying to reduce key person risk, it's not going to be like Pongrass
No,
Finance.
it's definitely not Pongrass Finance. No.
Well, we look forward to seeing that. And I think then sort of other question I have for Future Vision is really like, are you going to be changing the types of business that you do? Like, are you going to be still doing the same thing, or are you going to be taking a step back?
I think I'll definitely be doing the same thing. I've tried to step back. We've tried different functions with regards to me just focusing on sales and bringing in business, but I don't get enjoyment when I'm not in the deal. That's what I actually love about this industry. I love the strategic side of it. I think it's really enjoyable, really exciting. I think it's one of the few industries where you get exposure to so many different businesses and so many different stakeholders. Like, tell me some other industries where you get to see the performance of all different small businesses across Australia. You meet great directors and great managers. You see who's doing running their business as well and who's not. You get to meet amazing accountants and financial advisors and lawyers. We have exposure to such great people that if I stepped away from that, I wouldn't love what I do.
You'd miss it.
I really would.
Yeah,
and I've tried,
that's
and
nice.
I wouldn't like it. So.
Wouldn't it? So when you look then, I guess, at the kind of other things that are happening outside of your own business, like more broadly in the broking space, we've already talked a little bit about like one of the themes, which has been consolidation.
Yes.
Obviously, we're now in a rate reduction cycle as well. That's exciting for me personally. First time my rates have started going down. It's like, yes. I think by the end of this year, my rate might start with a 4.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
You must have a good broker.
I have an excellent broker. But yeah, so I think they're looking at kind of what's been happening in the industry more broadly from a sort of economic point of view and generally from a kind of industry point of view. It's a really interesting time. I think the beginning of the year, everyone was like, it's going to be a huge year. It took a bit of time, I think, for the property market to heat back up again. Where do you see FY26 going in terms of what's happening in property and generally in finance?
Look, I think where brokers have a luxury that we are sort of cycle agnostic. So when rates are going up, a lot of the conversations we're having around restructuring and refinancing and looking at ways to sort of improve the overall structure to make financial for there to be financial benefit to the client. In rate reduction cycles, there's a lot more purchases and acquisition transactions. So there's so much debt in the market regardless. So we have business in an up market or in a down market. I think they'll in a higher rate environment, purchases at the lower end of the market are a lot more common. Like, we've got a lot of clients at the moment sort of stepping out and buying smaller investment properties, which is a trend I'm seeing in the moment. Whether that continues as rates continue to come down, or there'll be a consolidation where those properties will be sold and people will use capital to deploy in maybe larger owner-occupied properties. That's potentially, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that we might see that.
And then when you kind of think about what your clients are coming to you for at the moment, what are the main trends? Or is there anything that kind of or maybe most recent deals you've been done, like what are they looking for?
I think debt recycling is a big word that keeps getting thrown out. I think a lot of people don't really understand it, and a lot of people will ask about it. We see a lot of questions with regards to that, and there's a lot of conversations we've had, particularly with sole traders, around strategies with regards to that. So we've seen a lot of business from barristers and doctors and any other sole traders around ways they can redeploy or convert some of their existing debt into more tax-efficient debt. Yep. So we've seen a lot of that. We've still seen a lot of owner-occupied activity. I mean, I've got a lot of clients transacting on properties, but yeah, again, I'd love to say that I know what's going to happen. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I think there's still going to be a lot of volume regardless.
I'm also curious to think, you're 8-9 years into your broken journey now. Yep. When you think about the biggest challenges along your career, like what have been the hardest things you've had to face?
I think the loneliness at the start, I think that's really a challenge. Like you really have to do everything at the start. And I think that's a challenge. And I think that's a hurdle for everyone to cross. And then just as your business evolves, the different pain points around, hiring offshore staff if you want to go down that path, or hiring onshore staff and interviewing and being a manager, not just reporting to yourself, and then managing, how do you manage time when you travel, when you're a one-man band, or how do you do that when you've got staff, and how do you be present to them? How do you keep a good culture in the business? These are all things that evolve as your career progresses. I think they've all been challenging. For me at the moment, I just had my first child 8-9 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Which is very exciting. He's a very sweet little boy. But managing my time now has been like more than challenging. I like to think I'm doing a good job. My wife would say I'm doing a terrible job, even though she knows I'm trying. But it is a real challenge managing time. Like, that's tough.
Yeah.
Being present when you're at home, but then also being present for your staff during workout. It's a real tough balance that I'm trying to find a groove at the moment.
And I think that's again why it's so important to have a network and a support team around you, because it is difficult. And also you'll find advice in the strangest places, I think, a lot of the time.
True.
But of course, a lot of what we kind of, talk about, and again at the New Broker Academy, one of the common themes was saying, you need to be prepared for being a small business owner. It's hard work and takes a long time to find your groove, and it's always an ongoing issue. You can't just kind of be like, oh, well, I've done it now. That's it. It's completely having to continue working. But what do you then do to kind of look after yourself? I mean, at the moment you've got a brand new baby, so I imagine a lot of your free time is taken up with that. But do you do anything else to kind of unwind or de-stress or look after yourself emotionally and mentally?
I would love to say I go to the gym all the time, but I don't. I should. I'm big into ice baths and saunas, so I just signed up to Recovery. We'll give them a plug as well, just because they're amazing. Which is right next to my office. I've never been. There's one
in Manly.
Yeah, it's really good. So there's one just near my office, and we go there 3 or 4 times a week. I've given all the staff membership as well, so we all go together. Which is fun.
Team ice bath.
Team ice bath and
team
sauna.
Freezing.
Yeah, team freezing basically. We use that as a way to unwind in our lunch break. So that's a nice middle of the day unwind. But otherwise, just time with family, eating good food, relaxing, traveling when I can.
Any good restaurants you'd recommend in Sydney at the moment?
We're looking for one tonight, actually. Let me just think, where have I been?
I went to Nell recently in Surrey Hills. It was fantastic.
All right, okay.
Set menu, 11 courses.
Tell me... What's the
we'll talk offline.
All right. Yeah. Well, I've got a date night tonight, so maybe I'll try and book that tonight.
I don't know if you'll get in tonight.
Okay, all right. Make some calls.
Yeah, exactly. Call some strings. Anyway, so looking at then, I guess, we've talked about some of the challenges that you face as a broking career. Is there anything you'd like to see fixed in the broking industry? Anything, if you were king of the industry for the day, what would you do to make it better? We did talk about this before, but I think... there's a fine line, but around improving education standards, or just having more, control around, or sort of something more regiment around learning for brokers to encourage them to continually grow and be more educated with regards to the advice they're giving. I think that's so ongoing professional development and better professional development.
I think so. I think we're giving it's a big decision for people buying property, and their debt is a big part of that. And I think particularly when people are talking about things like debt recycling and tax, which we are absolutely not in the capacity to be giving advice on, that is certainly advice that should be given from an accountant. We need to have the right training around things you can say and can't say. Yeah. And just overall knowledge around those things, I think, is super important as well. I think that's why our business does well, and I think a lot of really good brokerages do well, is because the people running those businesses, the people doing that are giving really thoughtful advice. It's not about rate. If you sell on rate, you die on rate. So you need to be really thinking about the advice you're giving, and maybe creating more rigorous education around that. All right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. And you're not the first person to say that. Okay, so maybe it's a general theme, looking at education requirements for brokers. And finally, Matt, thank you for letting us pick your brain so thoroughly today. What advice would you give to new brokers just starting their journey now? Advice I would give, or anything you would do differently if you had your time again. I think there's 3 things to be successful in any industry, but as a broker, I think you need to be likable, and I think you need to be trustworthy, and I think you need to be a subject expert. So I think my advice would be focus on learning, be really trustworthy and honest with clients, and try and develop a relationship with them. I mean, and it works like you think about you're great at what you do. Thank you. But you take the time to get to know the people you're interviewing, which means you're a subject matter expert, you're likable, and you air a sense of honesty. So I think those things, if you do that, you'll be fantastic in whatever you do.
Thank you.
Some good
That's
advice.
$10 for
Yes,
that compliment.
right.
Yeah, thank you very much. But yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Thank you so much. And best of luck
Thank
for
you.
the
Yes.
year ahead. Sounds
Yeah,
like you're going to be
appreciate it.
super busy, both
Yes.
personally and professionally.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to hopefully deserving a bit of a holiday at the
Yes.
end of the
Yes,
financial
that's
year,
right.
maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, we really loved talking to you, Matt. So thank you so much for talking about Cert
thanks for having
Finance
me.
and your journey along the way.
Thanks.
Don't forget as well, if you do want to find out more about commercial and finance broking, you can come to our SME Bootcamp in September, which is going to be deconstructing how to read business financials, learning about diversification, talking to accountants about what they do with their SME clients, and building strong referral partnerships between the two. A really must-attend event for anyone wanting to write business finance and really delve into the SME finance space. It's open for both brokers and accountants, and it is free. So come along. It's going to Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne in September. You can find it at smebootcamp.com.au. We'll catch you next time for another episode on the Advisor Podcast Network.